All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. King. I am coming to you once again from my wonderful home away from home. And today we are going to be discussing what it means to be 18 on a college campus because there are some differences. And so what happens is, even though we know that at 18, our kids may not be what is considered grown legally, they are. And give me just a second. Let me raise this a little bit. Okay, that's better. Looked like I was sideways for a little bit. Okay, but when our kids turn 18, there are a lot of areas that they are not quote unquote grown, but there are some areas where when they go off to college at 18, they are considered grown. And there are some things that as parents, we need to know. And for those of us that have gone off to college, we know these things. But for people who have first time, when they graduate this year and go off to college next year, there may be first time, what they call considered first generation college goers, where nobody else in the family has gone to college prior to them, and there are just some things that parents need to know. And so when our kids turn 18, by law in this country, they are considered adults. But what does that really mean? So I am sitting outside. This is going to be interesting. I hope we don't get very many of those, but it's lunchtime around here. So hopefully it's not going to be an issue, but I wanted to sit outside today because it's kind of nice out here. It's a little cool, but it's nice out here. But, I just don't always like to be inside, but hopefully those sounds won't be too much of an interruption. But in the United States, in a lot of areas, 18-year-olds are considered legally adults. And so in general, being 18 means that one can do some things. What you can do at 18 is vote. You can be 18, registered to vote. You can get married without parental approval. You can buy property. You can buy a car. You can, for boys, when they turn 18, they're required to register with the Selective Service for military reasons. Things like privacy laws kick into place when you turn 18. And some of these we're going to go more in depth once we get to the what does it mean in college part. Right now, I'm just talking about the general, what does it mean when your child turns 18? So laws like HIPAA laws, FERPA laws, financial laws, things like that kick in, and parents are no longer, like, you can't call the bank or you can't call the school or you can't call the hospital on behalf of your 18-year-old. So privacy laws over grades, bank statements, financial statements, medical records, things like that, all become the sole property of your 18-year-old. And you don't have access to those things unless they give you access to them. Also at 18, you can establish credit. You can get a credit card. And that's where, as a parent, we have to talk to our kids about finances, how to establish credit, how not to run up credit, how not to get a whole bunch of credit cards and just start charging stuff, because you do have to pay those credit cards off. You can buy a lottery ticket at 18, scratch offs, power play, Powerball, all of those type of things. You can open a bank account at 18 without needing a parent with you. You can buy certain medicines at 18 without needing a parent with you. You can work full time. You can only work part time between 16 and 17. At 18, you can start working full time. And those are just some things that you can do at 18. But there are also some things that you can do at 18 that you need to be very aware of, because if you don't handle yourself or handle your child properly, there's going to be some issues. So at 18, you get into trouble and do something illegal, you can go to jail. You can go to prison. You can also get sued. Relationship wise, you better make sure you know the ages, male or females, of the people that you are dating, because most often, though some states have different laws, but most often it's statutory rape if you have sexual relationship with anybody under the age of 18. Some states are 17, find out what it is for your state, but in many states it's 18. It doesn't matter if you say yes. If you're under 18 or the person you're dating is under 18, legally they cannot consent to sex. So you better understand the statutory rape laws for the state that you live in. The dangers of drug and alcohol abuse, going to college, those are big things on college campuses. Once again, we'll get off into that in just a second. And then if something happens, where it used to be, kids can do stuff and they'll get charged and, they'll go to juvenile, whatever, at 18, you do something, you're being charged as an adult. And then there are some things, even if you do as a juvenile, depending on what it is and your age, you can be charged as an adult. 18, you definitely can and probably will be if you do something wrong. But there are some things that you cannot do at 18. At 18, you can't drink. You can drink at 21, but not at 18. You can't purchase tobacco products. Tobacco products, 21. Go to the casino. And everywhere else that have casinos, except for Vegas. You can go to the casinos in Vegas at 18. In most states, you have to be 21 to go to the casino and gamble. Now, there are some casinos that allow younger people in, and some of them even have areas for younger kids while their parents are gambling, but you cannot gamble. You can't go to the casino and get some chips and try to use the slot machines or play the tables at 18. You have to be 21. And then to rent a vehicle, you have to be at least 20 to rent a vehicle. Most require 21 because that's legal driving age. But and actually you can get a driver's license at 18, but you can't rent a vehicle until you're at least 21. In some states, I think it's 20, but in most states it's 21. Know the laws for your state. So when we start talking about going off to college, whether you're a first-time college student or, parents went to college and all that type of things, there are some things that parents don't know and don't understand their rights and what they have power over when your child goes off to college. And we're going to understand and talk about those. And so let's talk about privacy laws. Those are the big things that you must know as a parent and a college student when you go off to college. There are 3 things that when you go off to college, once again, you're 18 or your child is 18. They may say, I'm grown, I'm this, I'm that. But we know that we have kids. If you're a parent, I have an 18-year-old. And our kids are not fully grown at 18. There are some things that they can do, but there are other things that we have not necessarily fully taught them yet because they're still kids. You don't go from graduating high school to going to college and now you're grown. There's no transition period, So there are some things that we have to talk about as parents. I'm talking to parents solely right now. There are some things that when your child goes off to college and they are registering for their classes and you go sit down with the registrar's department and the admissions department, and y'all talking about things, getting registered for classes, getting put into, dorm rooms, getting meal plans. There are some things that as a parent that you want to make sure that you talk to your 18-year-old about, that you have in place with that university or college, because if something happens without these things in place, your child is on their own and you have no legal recourse because they're 18. The first thing is FERPA. FERPA is known as the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. And FERPA applies to any educational institution, even at the high school level. FERPA applies. There are things like, especially with virtual schooling going on right now because of the pandemic, how the schools are telling parents, they don't want anybody else in the room, unless there's extenuating circumstances, and it just can't happen. But that's because even in class online, if you're not enrolled in that school, you should not be able to be in that class and see what's going on because you're violating the privacy of the other students in the class, not just your child, but the other kids in there. You're not enrolled in that class, your child is. So you got to be aware of how FERPA is a federal act. That's federal law. So things like checking grades, how for us, we use Skyward. There are a lot of districts over the country that use Skyward. And parents are always encouraged to go into Skyward, see what the kids are doing, check their grades, check their attendance. Are there any messages, all of that type of thing. Well, colleges have their different versions of Skyward as well. Each university has a student login service where they go in, and after their first year, because a lot of times incoming freshmen can't register online. They have to actually go to the campus, sit down and speak with a counselor, sit down and speak with a registrar, and get enrolled with their classes. Well, as a parent, once they get to college, and a lot of times in the admissions process, when you apply to your child or you apply to a college, the school is going to, when you submit that application, and the school responds to that application, they're going to go in and set you up or your child up a student account. It's going to come with a school email address. It's going to come with a school ID number. Some of them have a couple of sets of IDs and passwords because depending on what systems you're logging into, they require different usernames and passwords. Those things are only for your child. Now, granted, once again, our kids are 18. So we want to be involved in helping them get enrolled, in that transition process, get enrolled properly, make sure everything's in place, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, all that type of stuff. So there's a form that is called depending on what the school calls it, they all are the same thing. But for the school that my daughter is going to, it's called the Parent Certification of Dependency Form, or they may say FERPA waiver or something like that. But for my daughter, it's this form right here. And especially if you have an 18-year-old and they're not working, not paying their own taxes, you're claiming them as a dependent on your taxes, you definitely can sign this form. Some schools are now only allowing parents to sign this form if they can claim their child on their taxes. If your child is paying their own taxes, there's still a FERPA waiver form that can be signed. But for some schools, like my daughter's school, I can't sign this form unless I'm still claiming her on my taxes, which we are, but it's a FERPA form. And these forms have to be requested by your child, not you. Because remember, on the college campus, they're only listening to your child. So you have to make sure that you talk with your 18-year-old prior to y'all getting to that campus and getting ready to register and go through freshman orientation and all of that type of stuff, because their directives for the school are going to come from your child, not from you. They'll look at you, but unless your child tells them to do it, it's not going to get done. So, and also if, and just about all colleges have an online website, go to the registrar's page for the University of College online. A lot of times schools already have these forms on a website just lined up. You just have to go in and find it, print it off, sign it. Sometimes they'll have you scan them and upload them into their student account, into the supplemental forms area. But if they don't have that, then once you get to that campus, you need to make sure that your 18-year-old asks for this form so that it can be signed and then turned in so they can put it into their file. So if anything happens as far as grades or not going to class, or say, they get sick and are not going to class, you're not being able to log into their class. You're being able to log into their student accounts and see what's going on with their grades, see what's going on with attendance, see what's going on with their financial aid, things like that. So you have to have this form, FERPA form, signed and on file with the school before you have any rights as far as grades, attendance, checking any of that. You can't just log into there. And then anything related to financial aid. Remember, when they 18, they can open their own bank accounts and assume their own financial status. So the FERPA form also helps with that, but you also need to see if they have a separate form. They may have a separate form, but a lot of times the FERPA form will be a caveat form that'll handle grades and stuff like that, because it's all tied into that student login account. And then anything health related is going to require a HIPAA waiver form. And the schools have those. There are different names. Just look for, go in there and look at the descriptions of the forms. It may say medical release, or it may say HIPAA waiver. Just look for the form, or call the school and ask, or have your child call the school and ask. And that's, this form. This is the one that my child uses, that they use at the university my child is going to. It has to be signed and dated, and by both the student and the parent, and everything to be signed in. Because guess what? If something medically related happens to your child on campus, most often, hopefully the school person in charge of that will call mom and say, hey, something's going on with your child. But a lot of times for legal purposes, they will not. Why? Because at 18, they are now in charge of their own medical status. So you want that form on campus. So if anything happens to your child, say, your son or daughter falls and breaks their legs and have to go to the university medical center, whatever they have on campus for the students, medical related, they will call you and say, hey, we have your son or daughter here, maybe you want to come up, or this is what's going on. But you want them to be able to call you. You don't want to find out through Facebook or or a friend or somebody calling you saying, hey, Miss such and such, or hey, Mr. such and such, your daughter or your son fell, or they got chicken pox, or they have the flu, or they have COVID, you know, or they've broken their arm, anything medically related, you don't want to find that out some other way than either your child calling you or the school calling you. So you need to make sure that you have a HIPAA form on file. And HIPAA stands for Health Information and Portability Accountability Act. So Health Information and Portability Accountability Act. Long words. So you want to have a FERPA waiver signed, or you want to have a HIPAA waiver signed. And then if there's a separate financial aid form waiver that needs to be signed, and waiver means that your child is waiving their rights to allow you to see, not be able to see. So if you sign the waiver form, your student signs the waiver form, they're saying, yes, mom and dad can see this stuff. If they don't sign the waiver form, you cannot see these things. That's what it is. And so another thing that you want to have is a medical power of attorney or a durable power of attorney. And I'll tell you what the difference is between the two. A medical power of attorney form, this happens if your child goes to the hospital. They have to actually leave the campus. Now, the medical form that they have, like the HIPAA form and that stuff, that's for when they're on campus. But you need to have a medical power of attorney signed, and really that's for all adults. Everybody needs to have somebody that in case something happens to you, you have somebody that will be able to make sound medical decisions on your behalf if you are incapacitated and cannot do that. We don't all have that. I need to do it for myself. Everybody needs to have somebody in their corner, medical power of attorney. It could be a husband, mom, dad, best friend, son, daughter, somebody that you trust, that if you cannot make those decisions for yourself, that somebody else can make them for you and do what's best for you. And so that's a medical power of attorney form. This form has to be filled out in its entirety. It has to be signed. It has to be notarized. But there's also something called a durable power of attorney. And a durable power of attorney has the medical power of attorney, has the HIPAA, and it has the, not the FERPA, but it has financial power of attorney, HIPAA power of attorney, and medical power of attorney, all in one long contract. It's basically a contract is what it is. And so that's what the durable one is. And you can go online and go to LegalZoom or any of these different places, or if you know somewhere, you can go, like if you're here in Texas, the medical power of attorney form that I found was on the Texas Health Agency website, I think it was called. But you can even just Google it, medical power of attorney form for the state of Texas or whatever state that you're in, because each state has different things that's in their contract. So you have to make sure that when you do the medical power attorney form, and if you don't know somebody that's an attorney that can draw these forms up for you, that if you go online and do them, you just make sure that you do them for your state, because each state has different, wording and things for their particular state. But the power of attorney forms have to be filled out. They have to be notarized. They have to be filled out by both you and your child, and they have to be notarized and turned into the school or kept on file. So if anything happens, you can just, like, say your child goes to the hospital, you can present that, say, hey, I'm her or his medical power of attorney. And the hospital has to work with you on that. Without that form, you get zero cooperation, and they're not going to give you any, because legally they do not have to. And when you start talking about hospitals and legal institutions and medical institutions, they are going to do what is legally within their best interest to cover their butt, not yours, not your child, but theirs. So the forms that you want to make sure that you have on file with the school is the FERPA waiver form. You want to have the HIPAA waiver form, and then the either the authorization to release medical records, because sometimes even when something happens, you need to be able to get a hold of your child's medical records. Say you got to take them from the school to a hospital, take them from the school, or you're trying to get medicines, just anything. You want to be able to have a medical records release form to show that your child is allowing their medical records to be released to you. So if there's any additional services that are needed, you have those records to be able to present to whoever you're taking your child or your spouse or whoever to. We're talking about college kids right now, so I'm really just going to focus on the college kids. Make sure that you have the medical HIPAA form signed on file, the FERPA form signed. FERPA is for grades and attendance. HIPAA is for medical stuff. And then if there's anything that needs to be that needs to happen away from that campus, like say your child has to go to the hospital or something, you need a medical power of attorney form. Without those forms signed and or notarized, because some need to be notarized, some do not, some just need to be signed. You make sure you have those because you're doing what's best for your child in the long run. You still mom and dad, but on the campus don't care about you being mom and dad because your child is 18. So you want to make sure that anything happens to your child, that your 18-year-old and beyond, that you have rights and they have given you permission. Say you want to call and find out what's going on. Somebody called you and said your child was in a game. She had a concussion, hit her head on the court. You want to be able to call and check on her. Say they're out of state or say they're not within an hour and a half, 2-3 hour driving distance. You got a little ways to go and you want to call and check on him or her. You want to be able to call and say, hey, this is Miss such and such or Mr. such and such. I hear my child is there. I was told that he or she was hurt or I saw it on television. Hey, and I want to know what's going on. I'm on my way there. You can look into the system, find out that I have a medical power of attorney over her or him, or the HIPAA form has been signed to give you, to be allowed to give me all of their medical updates. You want to have that power and control for peace of mind for you, trying to let the truck go by. But you want to have that peace of mind for yourself that if something happens to your son or daughter, that you can just call the school and they can look in the system and see, hey, mom's name is on here, dad's name is on here. I can tell them that information because if it's not in the system, you can't have it. Power of attorney forms. That can happen too, especially the durable power of attorney forms, because that handles medical and financial. You want those forms signed and notarized because you want to be, and it's not that you're going in trying to invade their privacy. You're going in trying to be that second line of defense for them. Unfortunately, when they go off to college, who is their support system on that campus other than themselves? And you're trying to say you're taking an 18-year-old that's just graduated high school. You've been having to teach them, hopefully they've been teaching themselves, to get up, but that, you're teaching them life skills, but there are just some things that you can't teach your 18-year-old until they actually experience it. And that's fine as well. But you want to make sure that you have legal recourse, that mom can step in and help out, or mom can step in and make the decisions that are necessary for my child when he or she cannot make those decisions for themselves. That's what these forms are for. The FERPA forms, you're not trying to go in and look at the grades. Hey, I saw your grades. I saw you failed the test. That's not what it's for. It's if anything happens, even if you are married, because I am a college professor. And if something happened to one of my students, their husband or wife or significant other, depending on sexual orientation or whatever, they couldn't just log into my class or call me and say, hey, Professor King, my wife or my husband is in your class and he or she, are sick or had a car wreck or something, and they're not, I have 0 words for them. I can't talk to you. Do you have a FERPA form on file with the university? And then before I can even have that confirmation, I have to call the registrar's department and find out. Or they will, a lot of times what'll happen is stuff like that, professors will get emails with students to let them know what things are on file. So say like, if you need a disability, if you need extra time to do things, same thing with disability. If you have a student or your student has any type of physical or mental or medical disabilities where it requires them to have more time doing their classwork, doing tests, things like that, you need to make sure you get with the disability services department at the university and get that form signed and put on file, because that has to be done every semester. It's not a caveat where you only sign it once and it applies to all the time. No, you have to do that every semester. And they give you a time frame. It's only from this time to this time. All of that will be in detail spelled out on the form. But just because your child goes to class and say, hey, I have ADHD or I have ADD or I'm dyslexic and I need you to give me extra time. No, what you have to do is you need to go to the disability services department for the university or the college and let them know. And you have to you just can't tell them, I have dyslexia. No, you have to have some type of medical paperwork that where your child or yourself have been diagnosed with some type of disability and need those services. You have to show paperwork. You just can't say word of mouth. You have to show medical paperwork within a certain time frame to say that you actually need those additional services, and they will get that form filled out and you sign it. The school will sign it. And for every class that you or your child registers for, a copy of that form will be sent to the professors for that semester. Every professor you have for that semester will get a copy of that form, and it will tell them how much time they are required to give you. And sometimes it'll say like time and a half. So if you have 7 days to get something done, you know, time is 7 days. Well, half will be another 3.5 days. So instead of you having 7 days to get something done, now you have 10 or 11 days, because a lot of times they take the half up to another full day. So instead of you only having 7 days, you may now have 11 days. You see what I'm saying? So they'll spell it out in detail on the disability forms, how much time you actually have extra to do, you know, to do work. Sometimes they'll give you the full length of the semester, or that class, say that class ended and you have some additional assignments you need to turn in. Your disability form may say that your professor have to give you an additional 6, 8, 12 weeks to get that in. You just can't do, you know, you can't just go in there and tell your professor, hey, my child has a learning disability, or hey, I have a learning disability, or I have a medical disability, or I have a mental disability, and I need to have extra time to do my work. You have to have proven on paper diagnosis within a time frame that you're there. A lot of times, I think they said it's within 3 years or something like that. And sometimes you're required to go back to your doctor and get those dates updated, because the university is going to want to see that those ailments or those disabilities apply to you during the time that you're going to be enrolled in school. So you have to make sure that your forms and everything matches the times that you're enrolled in those classes. And then you take that information to the disability department. They will then type up those forms and send those forms to your professors for every semester. And you have to do that every semester at the beginning. Like, so while you're registering, at the time that you're registering for your new class for the next semester, then you make sure that you're also contacting the disabilities department and submitting that paperwork again. Or sometimes the paperwork may last. They'll tell you that the paperwork may be active for this time to this time. You know, they just need to go in and update the dates on your disability form so they can send them out to the new professors. You know, if you change professors a lot of times, sometimes you may have the same ones every semester, but that disability form has to be submitted at the beginning of every semester to your professors. So the FERPA form for your grades, attendance, things like that, HIPAA form for anything medically related on campus, medical power of attorney for anything on campus, and especially if you have to go to the hospital, durable power of attorney. So you don't need both the medical or the durable. If you do the durable has the medical in it. So my logic will be do the durable because it covers medical and financial. So you want the FERPA, you want the HIPAA, you want the power of attorney. And then if you or your child, son or daughter has any medical issues that requires them to have extra time in class to do work, then you need also your disability information documented with dates on it, and turn that in to the other forms to be turned into the registrar's department. The disability form to get the extra time will be turned in to the disability services department. No, because you got different departments that do different things. So the FERPA, the FERPA form goes to registrar's office. I want to say the HIPAA form goes to whatever department for their medical stuff. It may be the medical, it's not the medical department, but whatever it is, and you'll know what it is. They'll tell you, talk to your child's counselor advisor, talk to the registrar's department. Just let them know, hey, my mom needs the FERPA waiver. They need the HIPAA waiver, power of attorney. You do that. That's on your own. Mom, dad, child, that's on your own to do. The school doesn't do the power of attorney. They do the FERPA waiver, the HIPAA waiver, and the disability form. And with the FERPA waiver, especially if you, like I said, a lot of times the schools won't allow you to do it unless you are still claiming your child as a dependent on your taxes. They're going to require you to submit the first page of your tax that show your child's name and social security number listed. You just can't tell them, yes, I've claimed my child on my taxes. No, they're going to want the first page of your taxes that you submitted to show your child's name and social security number on there. Nothing goes on word of mouth. You got to be able to prove everything in writing. And you can't just draw that up. You have to show, like, say we're coming up on 2021. So if you're trying to do a FERPA form for the fall of 2021, then either your spring 2021 taxes or 2020 taxes. But a lot of times it's going to be, that's like I said, we're using fall 2021, for example. If you're doing a FERPA for the fall of 2021 for your incoming freshman, then you need to submit with this FERPA form, FERPA waiver form, the first page of your spring 2021 taxes that has your student's name and social security number on there, because they're not going to process it without it. They're not going to just take your word of mouth. You got to show that they are actually a dependent filed on your most recent taxes, just like financial aid. You know, if mom and dad, if you're using mom and dad on your financial aid FAFSA form, you got to submit your taxes. That's part of the financial aid FAFSA process. Well, the same thing with the FERPA waiver. And a lot of times, I don't know about the HIPAA waiver, but I know with the FERPA waiver, a lot of times some schools will only allow you to do the FERPA if your child is claimed on your taxes. Now, if your child just requested and say, hey, mom, I'm not dependent on my mom's taxes, but I still want my mom to be able to have some help, you know, give me some help when I need it. They have a form for that as well. They're not saying if your child is 18 and not on your taxes that you can't sign a FERPA waiver. They have them. You just have to, when I say you, I'm saying your 18-year-old, not you, mom and dad. Your 18-year-old has to request that form. The FERPA form, the HIPAA forms have to be requested by your incoming freshman. Then y'all will sit there, y'all will sign it, y'all will date it, and then you will turn it back in if you're on campus registry. If the forms are online, you can download them, print them off, sign them, date them, scan them, upload them into their school accounts. Remember, I told you they're going to get an email address, they're going to get school login, username and password. Most accounts have a supplemental forms area. And a lot of times that's where you're going to, there are a lot of different forms that you have to submit as part of the application process, like a bacterial meningitis form, maybe a COVID form. I haven't seen that yet, but possibly it's coming, things like that. There are forms that have to be submitted, like transcripts. And so there's a supplemental form area, and they'll tell you, print this form off, sign it, scan it, and it'll tell you in the instructions where you exactly need to go online into their student account to upload that form. But if you can't upload the form online, even outside of registration, if you just cannot upload that form online and you have to do it at the campus, then you will go to the registrar's department and ask for the FERPA and the HIPAA forms. And the HIPAA forms, they may send you to the medical area on campus, the office, or whatever area. Every college campus has a medical, like a little mini clinic, version. It's like a little mini clinic is what it is. It's a clinic on campus. They'll send you there to get that form and sign it, and for them to upload, so you just have to ask and they'll tell you what to do. But do not automatically assume that just because you had that same power at the high school, that mom or dad, you have that same power at the college. That's not the way it works. It's never going to work that way, because once again, in this country, at 18, your child is legally, we're not talking life, we're not talking maturity. We're not talking life skills. We're not talking, I raised them right. We're talking legalities of the matter. Legally, your child is 18, and every university considers an 18-year-old grown. We're not talking extenuating circumstances of a 12-year-old that's super smart, that's being able to go to college, because we're starting to see a whole lot of that now, which is wonderful. We're starting to see a lot of, middle school and 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds enrolling into college now. And that's wonderful. Those are different rules. They have different rules that their parents have to deal with. They still got to sign these forms and things, but there's some other paperwork that apply to them. I'm not talking about, those are considered outliers. I'm talking about your basic 18-year-old incoming college freshman. Know that at 18, they are adults, but you have to remind them that, baby, if you get in trouble at 18 and you do something stupid on that college campus, mama can't bail you out. Daddy can't bail you out. If these forms are not on file at the campus, I can't come up there and act on your behalf. I can't call nobody and act on your behalf if these forms are not signed and filed somewhere on the campus, uploaded into your student account. So make sure that your kids understand that these forms are on file for their best interest. So they have some type of support system on the campus, because other than that, it's just them. And for some kids, they are mature enough, but And even then, even your most mature students need a support system. You know, you may be grown, but you need a support system that if something happens while you are on that college campus or your student is on that college campus, that you can help them, that there is somebody for them to call. There's somebody, you know, hey, I need to be able to call my mom and talk to her, or call my dad and talk to him and find out what my options are. You know, the school is going to do what's best for the school, but who's doing what's best for you, or who's doing what's best for your child? So once again, as y'all are getting ready, and I'm talking to myself as well, you know, I've gone to college years, I know these things, but I'm still reminding myself. And for everybody else that has a college degree, you, unless you've had other kids that have gone to college already, you still may not know this, you know, because to be honest, I don't remember my mother signing a FERPA waiver for me when I went off to college. I don't. That doesn't mean she didn't. I just don't remember her doing it. So know these things. Get the FERPA waiver signed forms. Make sure signed form, the FERPA form signed. Make sure that you have the first page of your most recent tax document that shows your child's name and social security number. So you can submit that with the FERPA waiver. HIPAA waiver, ask for that. They may need that form as well. So make sure you have the first page of your tax document with you. So if they need to make a copy of it, or you can just hand it to them, make 2 or 3 copies of the first page just in case. You need to just hand it to them with the form. They can staple it together, do what they got to do. But you make sure that you have everything that you need with you to get your child enrolled. ID, social security card, make sure that you have your first page of your taxes. Because sometimes, depending on these forms, I know with the FERPA form, but I'm not sure with the HIPAA form, they want to see that your child was a dependent and was filed as a dependent on your most recent taxes. So you're going to need that form for the FERPA waiver form. But for grades and attendance, it's the FERPA form. For medical reasons, it's the HIPAA waiver, as well as medical power of attorney. But once again, the power of attorney, you may want to do the durable power of attorney because it also helps with medical and the financial side. Grades don't have anything to do with power of attorney. Power of attorney is a legal thing that has to do with finances and has to do with making medical decisions. So a durable power of attorney, like I said, covers both the financial and the medical side. The FERPA form covers grades and attendance. The HIPAA form, you know, if anything happens on campus or whatever. But like I said, if anything happens where your child has to leave that campus and go to a hospital, you want the hospital to be able to call you. That's where the medical power of attorney comes in. So financial aid form, a lot of times FERPA comes in with the financial aid form as well. Not sure, want to check on that. But power of attorney definitely does. If you don't do a durable power of attorney, then you need a separate financial power of attorney and then a separate medical power of attorney. But if you do the durable power of attorney, it covers both financial and medical. So I would say go ahead and spend the money and get, and it's not expensive. I know I saw online yesterday, you can get a durable power of attorney for $59. And like I said, that covers medical and financial. You know, it's not expensive. Get it done. It's for the safety of your student. It's for peace of mind for you. And it just keeps, you know, mom and dad in the loop. Anything can happen on college campuses, and it does. The thing is, colleges are not required by law to report anything that goes on their campuses. A lot of times when we find out on the news about something going on campuses is when it happens when somebody is being sued because their daughter has gotten raped on campus, or, you know, somebody has been cheating. You never find out what's going on college campuses unless there's a death, there's some type of scandal. Other than that, and the college didn't report that. Who reported it? Normally it's the family of the child that something happened to, you know, or the family of the child that's suing, or the family of whose child got killed or whose child got raped, you know. So the school is not required to tell you anything. They don't have to report anything that goes on their campuses. And you don't want to find out on Facebook. You don't want to find out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. You don't want to find out that something happened to your child that way. You want to be the first person that's called. Something happens to your baby on campus, you want to be the first one that's called. So I impress upon you, and I can't stress it enough. Get the FERPA waiver signed. Get the HIPAA waiver signed. Have a durable power of attorney or medical and financial. There's two, like I said, you either got the medical power of attorney and financial power of attorney, or you have the durable, which covers both. But HIPAA, and disability. So FERPA, HIPAA, power of attorney, and if your child has any type of disabilities, hold on. If your child has any type of disabilities that requires them needing extra time, you need a disability form on file with the Disability Services Department at the school. So FERPA, HIPAA, power of attorney, and if needed, those are the three you require. Those are required. If I would say anything is required, those three forms are required. FERPA, HIPAA, FERPA waiver, HIPAA waiver, power of attorney. Those three, I don't care who child it is, those three are needed. The fourth is the disability form, and that's if your child has some type of medically documented disability that requires them to need additional time in their classes to get works done and submitted. So FERPA, HIPAA, power of attorney required. Disability required if your child has a disability. If not, don't worry about it. But the definitely three are FERPA, HIPAA, and power of attorney. And with that, I am going to say good evening because I'm almost running out of time. But I'm going to say good evening. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. I did not lose a day this week, y'all. It's been so much going on with me that I have been losing at least a Tuesday or a Wednesday every day. And I look up and it's like Thursday or Friday. And I'm like, well, what happened? You know, I go from Monday to Thursday and it's weird. But this week, I'm actually doing really good this week with keeping up with my days. So, and no, there's nothing medically wrong with me. I just got a lot going on. You know, that winter storm, you know, it took its toll on me. But, let me wrap this up because here comes a train. So thank you. And I say good, you know, love you. If you need me, contact me, 800 Educator Bridget at TICommunities.com or find me on Facebook at Bridget King, EDD. And if you know me, call me, email me, text me. Have a good one. Bye-bye.